Hey everybody, I'm Jillian. I write as J. Anderson Coates, and I'm here today at Writer Unboxed to tell you a little bit about my new YA historical, Spindle and Dagger, which came out on March 10th from Candlewick. And it is set in the 12th century in Wales, and it is about a girl named Ellen who 3 years ago told a quick lie to save her life when a warband raided her house, but now her whole life revolves around living that lie every single minute. I want to give a quick shout out to the cover artist, Julia Iredale, and I hope that everybody goes and checks out her other work because her work is absolutely gorgeous and amazing. So books that spend a long time coming into the world tend to accumulate stories, and Spindle and Dagger is no exception. I have a happy story. This is the perseverance story, the one that goes, it was 1994 when I first learned of the historical event at the center of Spindle and Dagger. It was 2011 when I started to write the manuscript, and here we are in 2020, and the book is out in the world. That's a happy story, and if you want to skip ahead to the end of the video because the world is a giant trash fire and you can't even with one more thing, please do. It won't hurt my feelings at all. But there's another story here, and it's not as easy a story as that one, but it's just as true. And it goes kind of like this. So every reader is going to bring their own experiences to a book, so your mileage may vary, but for me, Spindle and Dagger is a survival story. A lot of stories about girls are survival stories because girls figure out very quickly that they will need to survive a lot of things. Big things, little things, but we all learn it. Some of us learn it way too early, but eventually we all do have to learn that. So I was 13 the first time I learned that there were things that I was going to have to learn to survive. I was also 13 when I learned that adults were not going to help me. They were not going to listen to me. And in fact, they were going to tell me stuff like, oh, well, they're going to tell me things to believe. They're going to tell me things like probably making things up, or what happened was really not that bad. And, it's really not worth making that big a deal about anyway. So I stopped asking for help, I kind of shut down, and for many years really just sleepwalked through my life. I stopped talking, sleepwalked through school. One thing I do remember doing is reading a lot. In fact, this was when I discovered historical fiction, and it was a very immersive world where I could sort of plunge myself into it and not think about other things. And I discovered historical research. Reading books and learning things that other people didn't know, and it really gave me a very strong sense of control and mastery, and it was really, really helpful. So I was in my mid-teens when I learned about the story of the abduction of Nest, and by this time I was also the kind of nerdy kid who read Chronicle accounts, but that's a totally different story. So it was pretty rare for me, pre-internet, looking at books that I had to get from ILL from all over the place, but very rare to find a story about a girl or a woman who wasn't a saint or a nun, and I was really excited about it. But my eye kept catching on this one line, and I'm going to read it to you because I have a copy of a chronicle. I'm still a nerdy person, so here it goes. In the Chronicle of the Princes, here's the line. And after burning the castle and collecting a booty and having connection with Nest, Owain returned to his country. So that's connection with an X. And I was mid-teens, and I'd never seen this word before, but I knew right away exactly what was going on and what had happened in that way of girls understanding that they will need to survive things. And so the more I read it, the more I realized how much hand-waving the chronicler was doing, kind of like the adults had done when I was younger, waving their hands over it, telling me things to believe. Whatever happened wasn't that bad, and at any rate, wasn't making such a big deal about. honestly, I had no idea that this story, the story of girls' experiences being kind of waved, having hands waved over it and being kind of swept under the rug, was that old. I thought it was me. I thought I was the only person who this had happened to, and it was mine to deal with. And at first it made me kind of sad to think that, oh man, 800 years later, power's going to do what power's going to do. And, we should let our eye glide over that part, because we should really be caring about the war that's brewing here in the Chronicle in 1109. That's what we should care about. But then, in a weird way, the more I read it, the more I thought about it, this story with Nest really gave me hope, because, if the reason why so many stories about girls are survival stories is that so many things are survivable that we often just don't think they are at the time. And one bad thing happening to you, it's not the end of your story. What you have to do is read beyond the account that the chronicler wants to give you. And over time, many years, it occurred to me that there was a way to take things that happened to you and turn them into stories and form meaning around them. And if and when you want to do that, it gives you some power back. And Nest really never got a chance to do that, but I do, and I can, and I'm going to. So if you're interested in reading Spindle and Dagger, I hope you will consider buying it from your local bookstore. And if you don't have a local bookstore, I have buy links here. And I also hope that you will consider asking your local library to buy it and add it to the collection and reading it there. Here's some stuff about me. And thanks for listening, and happy reading.